Truck drivers were not involved in Ukrainian special operation.
They didn't know.
They didn't
The drivers didn't know what they do.
Trump is not sure whether to impose sanctions on Russia.
I'd use it if it's necessary.
Europeans call for active action against Russia.
Russia has it in its own hands to stop this war immediately.
I am Albina Pinterniak. We will analyze the news of Ukraine and the world together. Russia has announced that the prisoner exchange has been disrupted. This was stated by the representative of the Russian so-called delegation in Istanbul, Medinsky. He noted that our country was allegedly given a list of 640 prisoners, and the bodies of Ukrainian defenders are allegedly already in the prisoner exchange area. But the Ukrainian side has allegedly postponed the measurements for an indefinite period.
In full accordance with the agreements reached in Istanbul, we have prepared more than 6,000 bodies of Ukrainian soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine, which are in frozen refrigerators and special wagons in the uniform of the armed forces of Ukraine, many of them with documents for transfer to the Ukrainian side. We have also prepared lists of servicemen in the category of wounded, seriously ill and young people under 25 years old, which we are also ready to immediately transfer to the Ukrainian side, about 1,200 people from each side. According to the schedule approved in Istanbul, the exchanges were supposed to begin today. Our representatives arrived at the border, at the exchange point, but unfortunately, we still do not understand why. There are no representatives of the Ukrainian side, there are no delegations, there are no lists. We once again call on our Ukrainian negotiators to strictly comply with the agreements reached. Families are waiting for their sons and husbands at home. Thousands of families will have the opportunity to bury the fallen soldiers in a humane, Christian way. We are on the spot, we are ready to fulfill all the agreements, we urge you to take your soldiers, accept the military, the sick, let's do what people should do. Thank you.
At the same time, there is information from the Ukrainian side that an exchange is being prepared, and the Russians, by spreading fake news, are trying to put pressure on the negotiation team. Here is what the Coordination Center for the Treatment of Prisoners of War answered.
Regarding the exchange of prisoners, Ukraine submitted lists for exchange, formed in accordance with clearly defined categories agreed upon during the negotiations in Istanbul. Seriously wounded, seriously ill, according to the formula, all for all, as well as young servicemen. The Russian side submitted other lists that do not correspond to the agreed approach. Ukraine provided relevant comments, and the next step is currently expected from the Russian side. As for the repatriation of the bodies, an agreement was indeed reached. The date was not agreed upon. Instead of consistently implementing the agreed algorithm, the Russian side resorted to unilateral actions that were not agreed upon within the framework of the joint process. Unfortunately, instead of constructive dialogue, we are once again faced with manipulation and attempts to use sensitive humanitarian topics for informational purposes.
On June 7, the Ukrainian Air Force conducted a successful operation in the Kursk direction, as a result of which Russian Su-35 fighter has shot down. Together for Victory, the official page of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Telegram reads: Ukraine struck the last blow to Russian aircraft on June 1. Then, during the operation of the Ukrainian Border Guard Service, more than 40 targets were destroyed, including strategic enemy aircraft. We have a video of the downed aircraft. Russian drivers were not involved in the special operation of the Security Service of Ukraine. This was stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. He noted that the truck drivers were simply following the route and they didn't even suspect what kind of cargo they were carrying.
Russian drivers who had no idea.
They didn't know.
They didn't
The drivers didn't know what they do.
In Russia itself, everything is going according to plan, so to speak. They are already thinking about how and where to install drone ports. Russian officials spoke about this at a meeting with Putin. Vice Prime Minister Vitaly Savelyev proposed to install 20 such drone ports by the end of the year.
The industry and trade decided to develop not only a network of landing sites, but also mobile drone ports. As of May of this year, 31 drone ports have already been installed in 8 regions. By the end of the year, we plan to install at least 20 more drone ports. Such a solution will reduce the amount of capital costs for the construction of landing sites, developing the market for base services.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, commented on Donald Trump's recent words that the war in Ukraine looks like a children's games where 2 children are fighting in the park. And that supposedly in such a case, the children should be given the opportunity to fight a little and then separate them. To this position of Trump, Volodymyr Zelensky replied that it is very difficult to assess the scale of tragedy when one doesn't live in Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky said this in an interview with ABC News.
President Zelensky, you speak so powerfully about the loss in your country and what your people have suffered. Do you think the president is getting that message when he says things like it's 2 children fighting?
Zelensky then telling us, and the president who is not living here, and it's not about President Trump, it's about any person who is not here in the country, who is some thousands of miles away, cannot feel fully and understand this pain. And this is why we are not kids with Putin at the playground in the park. This is why I am saying he is a murderer who came to this park to kill the kids.
I would like to note that the rhetoric regarding the child's game was also responded to in Russia. Peskov noted that this war allegedly concerns Russian national interests. In addition, the spokesman for the Russian dictator said that Russia allegedly made a number of diplomatic efforts which were rejected.
Here, of course, there can be a point of view on this. For us, this is a central issue. This is a matter of our national interests. This is a question of our security in the future, our and our children's, the future of our country, which is why a special military operation is being carried out after all possibilities for resolving problems by political and diplomatic means have been exhausted, and they were. Exhausted after all our initiatives were completely rejected by the Westerners.
Meanwhile, the Russians continue to carry out their terroristic attacks on the territory of Ukraine. After a massive missile and drone attack, the Russians struck the Kharkiv region. They dropped 54 drones, 4 guided aerial bombs on the city. They used 1 missile. The attack killed 3 people, injured 17, including 2 children. Ukrainian rescuers showed a video of the liquidation of the consequences of the strike on Kharkiv. Trump will apply sanctions against Russia if necessary. He said this during a conversation with journalists. Traditionally, the American president noted that the war continues to drag on. However, the final decision, of course, remains with him, with Trump. And this is true. It is important that the American president clearly realizes that Russia's ability to wage this war directly depends on these sanctions.
If I think Russia will not be making a deal or stopping the bloodshed, 5 and 6 even, I've been saying 5 and 6 and now it's more, 1,000 a week, soldiers being killed and people being killed, not just soldiers, people being killed, but largely soldiers being killed. Yeah, I'd use it if it's necessary. And they've really given me that option.
Are you trying to get the Senate to water it down, though, from its current version?
I haven't spoken about it. They have a bill. It's going to be up to me. It's my option. They've made it that way. And it would save a lot of time if that happened. So I'm okay with it. I haven't decided to use it. It's a very strong bill.
The Speaker of the US Congress, Michael Johnson, noted that support for the introduction of the Torah sanctions against Russia is growing. He himself spoke quite favorably about the bill itself. There are many members of Congress who want to impose the toughest possible favorably sanctions against Russia. And I'm a supporter of this. Michael Johnson told this to the reporters. I would like to remind our viewers that in March, Senator Lindsey Graham introduced the anti-Russian sanctions bill. According to this bill, the US will impose a 50% duty on all goods supplied to America from countries that buy Russian oil and gas. In fact, such a tariff is a ban on exporting anything to the US. This would be a very serious blow to Russia. After adopting on the law, no country in the world would want to buy Russia energy resources so as not to lose access to the American market. If the bill is passed, it will be the most powerful sanctions blow against Russia since the start of the war. Recently, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz visited the United States. He met with Trump at the White House. Among other things, Friedrich Merz also held talks with senators. Merz noted that, unfortunately, high-ranking officials in the United States do not realize the real scale of the rearmament that Russia is currently conducting. Merz also added that the only victim in this war is Ukraine. It is important in no case to shift the emphasis and not try to look at the Russian-Ukrainian war with any understanding on the aggressor.
Ukraine is the victim of a very hard aggression, and this aggression is coming from Russia only. And Russia has it in its own hands to stop this war immediately. They could stop it overnight. So and that's the reason why I asked the president to go along with us to put more pressure on this government, on Putin, to come to an end with this terrible war. I was a little bit more optimistic a couple of weeks ago when the first diplomatic initiatives were more or less successful. In the meantime, it's extremely complicated to bring the Russians to the table. That's the reason why I asked the president to do more on Russia and to put pressure on Russia. You know that there is a bill in the Senate drafted on more sanctions. Just had a debate, discussion with some colleagues from the Senate. So I very much hope that we will go along and that we will do the same. And the same has one goal: bring this terrible war to an end.
But does it complicate talks, peace talks, if our president, President Trump, is calling these attacks, these words, strong?
Well, my personal view is very clear and very simple. Only strength brings peace. And if you are weak, you invite aggression. So Ukraine has to be strong. And that's the reason why we are giving support, militarily, financially, politically, for itself. And this is something we would like to be continued as long as necessary. But again, our common goal is to bring this terrible war to an end.
The president often likes to say that this war would have never happened had he been in the White House. Do you agree with that?
Well, this is theory or speculation, which could be right or wrong, but this war is now happening, and we have to tackle that, and we have to resolve it now. It makes no sense to discuss the past. This has happened. If we had Ukraine as member in NATO, which was applied in 2008, and the Americans gave support to that. The French and the German government were against it. You can again speculate would this war had happened. Ukraine was then a big nuclear power. They were the third biggest nuclear power in the world, and they agreed to get rid of all the nuclear weapons. And thereafter Russia attacked Ukraine. Would this had happened with nuclear weapons on the ground? You can ask the same question again. No, this war is now happening and we have to stop it now. This is our task.
And I would like to end this news with an interesting video. The Security Service of Ukraine has published a new video of the special operation. The footage shows the full path of the Ukrainian FPV drone from the moment it took off from a modular home to destruction on the Tu-22 M3 at the Belair airfield. Dear viewers, thank you for watching this video. Give it a like and leave your comment. I will be grateful for your activity and communication. Take care. See you soon.